Start. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's Planning Applications Committee meeting on the 22nd of November 2022. It is now 6 p.m, so I'm going to make a start. So first of all, some announcements. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be published on the YouTube channel tomorrow. Sadly, we're still having some issues with our live streaming, so hence, sadly, we will not be able to live stream the event tonight. Public participation, if you are planning to participate, can I just remind you that you have 3 minutes in which to make your statement. This will be timed, and we will obviously be trying to adhere to those timings as best we can. Voting will be by show of hands unless a recorded vote is requested, whereby I, as the chair, will request the legal officer to read out the names of committee members, and when you hear your name called out, please respond for, against, or abstain. After the vote is taken, the legal officer will then announce the result of the vote. Okay, agenda item number 1, Chair's welcome. So I know most of you have been here, but there are a few new faces, so I do apologise if I go through the evacuation procedures, but we need to do that. So I ask that you ensure that you are signed in on the signing sheet provided. These will be used in the case of an evacuation. A fire drill is not expected, so if the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building quickly and calmly. Please use the stairs and do not use the lifts. Once out of the building, please gather outside the Lloyds Bank building on the opposite side of the road. Exit by the door by which you entered the room or by the fire exits which are clearly indicated by the standard green fire exit signs. If you need any assistance in evacuating the building, please make yourself known to a member of staff. The meeting is being recorded for future publication, as we said, on the council's website. Please can I ask that you turn your mobile phone off or at least to silent for the duration of the meeting. Item number 2, apologies. I have several apologies tonight. First of all, Councillor Cape, who is being substituted for by Councillor Baxter Payne. So thank you very much for joining us, Councillor Baxter Payne. And then I also have apologies from Councillor Shires and Councillor Hartshorn. Do we have any other apologies? Okay, no. Okay, I therefore have the minutes, and hopefully you've all had a chance to have a look at them. So do I have a seconder? I shall propose the minutes as being an accurate record. Councillor Smith, you're happy to second. Do I have any dissent on signing those minutes? No, so I shall sign those off now. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 4, declarations of interest. Are there any members who have any declarations of interest? Councillor Baxter Payne.
Agenda, but they are those listed on the council's website.
No, so that brings us on to item number 5, declarations of contact. I have one to declare on item number 1, and I suspect this may be the same for other members as well, but we have been contacted by Morrison's and their representatives. I must admit, on my own part, and I do apologise for this, I have not read or engaged with any of that material. I will go with what the council has provided me with. Do I have any other declarations? Councillor Markham.
And email, but I've made no response.
Yes, the same letter, which I haven't read, put to one side and pass no comment. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Green.
The letter either.
Yes, and all the other members, Councillor Smith and Councillor Baxter Payne, are also indicating that they have done likewise. Okay, so that brings us on then to our first item for this evening. So I shall hand over to Darren.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just wait for Victoria to change the projector over. Thanks, Victoria. This application is for a full permission for the erection of a food store, a petrol filling station with kiosk, external garden centre, substation and ATM pod and ancillary landscaping, customer parking, and associated works. The site is currently used for ABS skips, and it's partly used for ABS skips, and the rest has largely been cleared, with some excavation being carried out, which appears to be within the area proposed for the building. The site is accessed from Midland Road, which is to the south. To the east are terrace properties on Jodrell Street. To the south of Midland Road are similar residential properties, which are set off Midland Road and separated from it by landscaping and a service road to the rear of these properties. The key issues to assess in the consideration of this application are the principle of the development, including the loss of an employment site and the impact on retail centres, visual amenity and landscape character, residential amenity, highway safety and accessibility, flood risk and drainage, contamination and land stability, air quality, ecology and biodiversity, and finally, any relevant planning obligations. In regard to the principle of the development, a retail impact assessment was submitted with the scheme, which found that the proposed development would not have any material impact on potential investment opportunities, but the development would meet a need identified for new convenience retail development in Nuneaton. The study also included an assessment of the impact on town centre viability and vitality, including local consumer choice and trade in town centre and the wider catchment area. This has demonstrated that there will be no significant adverse impacts on any large centre or large store in any centre. In regard to visual amenity, the main store building is proposed at 7 metres high with a flat roof. The building facade is comprised of horizontal cladding panels in predominantly light grey with a dark grey finish to the front elevation that wraps around the building to both the southeast and northwest. It is considered that the use of light grey would reduce the impact of the mass of the building against the majority of its boundary, and the use of dark grey provides a clear contrast and entrance feature to the front of the building. The design and materials are in keeping with the recent retail and commercial buildings of a similar size and scale that have been improved throughout the borough. The petrol filling station building is 4.8 metres high, with the canopy being 5.5 metres. The materials are similar to the main store building, but the dark grey cladding is replaced with dark green. Clearly, the proposals would have an impact on the character of the area, but it is not considered that this would be so significant or have a detrimental impact on the visual amenities of the area. In regard to residential amenity, a noise assessment was submitted with the application. The assessment concluded that there will be no significant acoustic impact on any potential receptors, and that the application set out how deliveries could be done quietly with minimal disturbance to residential properties. The environmental health team originally had concerns with deliveries being 24 hours a day, and as a result of this, a quiet delivery system report and plan was submitted, which set out how deliveries can be undertaken so as not to disturb nearby residents. Environmental health have asked for this to be bound by the permission, and any deviation would require consultation with them. They also requested a condition relating to deliveries after 10 p.m. and before 7 a.m. The distance from the side elevation of the main building to the rear of the properties on Jodrell Street is over 20 metres and in compliance with the guidance set out in the Sustainable Design and Construction SPD. The access is proposed off Midland Road. Warwickshire County Council Highways have no objections subject to conditions and some infrastructure requests. The Transport Demand Matters SPD requires 195 spaces, so with 258 spaces proposed at the food store, with 15 disabled spaces and 15 parent and child spaces, this meets with guidance. 6 rapid charging points are proposed, which is in compliance with the SPD too. It is recognised that the demand for electric vehicle charging will likely increase in the future, and therefore the development will also include the provision of infrastructure to provide additional EV charging spaces, a further 4 spaces, to meet future demand. In regard to flood risk, a flood risk assessment was submitted with the scheme which states that the site is in flood zone 1, therefore complying with the aims of the sequential test to locate in sequentially more preferable sites. Warwickshire County Council flood risk have no objections subject to conditions. Additionally, in regard to the contaminated land, MBBC Environmental Health have no objections subject to a condition. In regard to air quality, MBBC Environmental Health have no objections subject to a condition, Both the Transport Demand Matters SPD and the Air Quality SPD refer to the provision of electric vehicle charging points, and as mentioned previously, 6 rapid charging spaces are to be provided, with infrastructure for more in the future, which weighs in favour of the proposal. The NPPF outlines a need to minimise the impact of proposed developments on biodiversity. NBBC Parks have no objections subject to conditions, and a Section 106 contribution of £101,544 to be used in wetland habitat creation. The NBBC Tree Officer also has no objection. The impact on biodiversity is considered to be acceptable. In regard to the planning obligations, there are 3 main contributions: for biodiversity, as mentioned, for county infrastructure, including bus stop improvements, and for county highways for traffic signals and a cycle scheme along Midland Road. These are all considered compliant with the SIL regulations and have been agreed by the applicant. In conclusion, therefore, the proposal is recommended for approval, subject to conditions and the legal agreement. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Darren. I now have several speakers on this, so I should go to the first of those. So that's Councillor Condacor, who's speaking, I believe, in objection. Is that right, Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually moving it today. I actually like the principle of the shop being out of town on that side because of the dire need for it, and it will reduce the traffic going into Anster. But I'm very, very concerned about a few issues, most notably the bus stop, because without a bus stop, it really is unsustainable. The applicant wants to build a bus stop, but it's where it gets put. Where it is on your drawing today, it says TBD, or to be determined, and it's right on the, as you turn out of the Morrisons, you'll immediately hit the rear of a bus. I believe that will get failed by the time it goes to safety audit. We can't have the county council moving the bus stop 100 metres down the road, 150 metres down the road, so people have a 400-metre walk to the shop. We have to have a bus stop around that entrance, so that actually people, it's already set back a very long way, the shop. We have to get that detail right. And at the moment, the applicant, they're really keen on a bus stop, but we need to actually have it as a condition, or to have a drawing that actually says this is where the bus stop will be, because that is so critical, that, yeah, particularly coming down from Camp Hill and Abbey Green, that we get the bus stops right for this. The solar panel issue, I think, has been sorted. It says in the paperwork it may be considered. I believe the applicants have got more drawings that say there will be solar panels. And the other issue is really keen on the pedestrian safety within the site. As you're coming from Abbey Green and you walk into the site, if the officer will put the diagram up, the pavement leads you to the corner of the car park, where there's absolutely no way then to cross to the central area for the there's a good walkway from the petrol station to the front of the shop, but it's disconnected from the walk into from Abbey Green. So I think the internal layout needs some more crossings adding, so actually you can get, without crossing the bell mouth of the junction, you can go along effectively the bottom of the site and then cross to the pedestrian way going across. And the real final thing I'd say is this really needs to preserve access to the rear, because if you live in Weddington or the north end of Abbey Green, there's actually a public right-of-way that crosses the back of the site that takes you across that footbridge to Weddington. And that would really save, probably half a mile walking to get into the site without going to the Midland Road. So I really ask that we actually at least put passive provision in, that actually is connected so that actually people can walk into the site from the, what will it be, west or east end, because we really don't want people walking all the way to the Midland Road, crossing particularly the railway on that narrow bridge with no pavement, and then having to walk 200 metres back onto the site. So really want to say, I really want this to happen, but I want the details to be right. I don't want people getting killed on the entrance of the Bellmouth, and I want all the walking routes to have crossings through. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mrs. Condacor, I believe you're our next speaker, so when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm largely speaking on behalf of Nuneaton and Bedworth Cycle Forum, of which I'm the chair. Again, we are not opposed to the principle of having Morrisons on the site. In fact, we can see positive benefits for people. However, it's the road safety aspects that are of concern, and not just for cyclists, but also pedestrians. And with the cost of living crisis and petrol prices, an increasing number of people are using cycling as their main mode of transport. So it's not just, we're not talking about just a few people. There's too much in this application as it stands that is reliant on all the conditions being fulfilled. You know, the NPPF outlines the need for planning to promote walking, cycling and public transport and to make the fullest possible use of these, but the plans as they are shown don't really, enable that. The air quality section in the officer's report mentions the need for a travel plan, cycle parking, provision of cycle infrastructure as part of the site access route, but that's really not there in the application. Cycle parking is covered in the Borough's Transport Demand Matters SPD, and yet it's not being adequately provided for, except for via condition. And the requirements have been known since the outset. We put it in our objection. So why has it not been provided already? And with the layout shown, where are they going to be put? Because they need to be in a safe place for getting to, they need to be in a visible place so your bike is safe. If it's tucked round the back, anything can happen, it can disappear. So that needs to be done. Provision of cycle infrastructure as part of the site access route. There is no cycle infrastructure. Cyclists will have to enter the site with the motorised traffic, including the HGVs that are going to be supplying the store. And it's stated in the transport bit that lorries turning into the site will have to sort of, in effect, straddle both lanes. They won't be able to just go from the turning lane, and that the rear ends will sort of swing out. Now, it says that won't allow, there won't be enough space for cars to, go past there. But if you're on a bicycle, how would you know that this bit, how far this is going to swing out and things? It just doesn't seem safe. We want sustainable development, and yet the application's only going for a very good for the BREEAM thing. Why is it not aiming for excellence or even outstanding, although that's very hard to achieve and things? So again, we want we're happy to have the Morrison store and things, but I don't think it should be approved as the plans are shown to the committee at the moment. It probably needs to be deferred whilst a lot of these things are sorted out, because to me, it's with an SPD in place, there's no reason why the cycle provision should be just simply as yet another condition on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the Planning Application Committee, whether they need any points of clarification either from Councillor Condacor or from Mrs Condacor. So just looking for any hands. No? Okay, in that case, we'll go to Mr Crichton, who is the agent.
My name is Chris Cretan, and I'm here today to represent Morrison's, who, as you've heard, want to build a new store and petrol station in Abbey Green. The development will regenerate an important but underutilised brownfield site, the current use of which is unattractive, and having spoken to some of the neighbours on Jodwell Street, they find quite unappealing. The new Morrison store will provide the full range of fresh food, including the popular Market Street with specialist butchers, bakers and fishmongers. The store will significantly improve local shopping choice, and we think it will reduce traffic from residents travelling to stores elsewhere in the town. It will provide affordable fuel and electrical vehicle charging and create an estimated 250 new local job opportunities with award-winning skills, training and career progression. The store will meet the very good BREEAM requirements, so that demonstrates it's been designed to high environmental and energy standards, and we are putting solar panels on the roof to help us meet that. The proposal now includes a new signalised pedestrian crossing across Midland Road to help shoppers into the store. We've agreed a financial contribution with the county to allow for design work to start on a new cycle route along Midland Road. And in respect of the bus stop, we've been talking to the county about that, and it's in our interest to have that bus stop as close to the store as possible. We want customers to come by bus. At the moment, there are 2 bus stops either side of Midland Road. The final location of it is subject to safety audits with the county. We think it'll move maybe about 60 metres from where it is at the moment, but until we've been through that with the county, we can't say exactly where. But I can assure Councillor Condacor, and we really do want that bus stop close to the store because we want our customers to come by bus. We carried out public consultation before making the application and found strong local support. We had 584 residents respond to our consultation. 88% welcomed the development. We took special care to engage with the site's immediate neighbours. We held an online meeting with them during the COVID pandemic where we met with them and heard about their concerns. So we put in extensive landscaping and boundary treatment to protect their privacy. We're naturally very pleased with the officer's report, which recommends approval and concludes that this would be in accordance with the development plan, wouldn't materially harm the character or appearance of the area or the living conditions, and importantly would be acceptable in terms of traffic, safety and convenience. I was talking to Councillor Condacor before the meeting. We're happy to talk with County and councillors about the final design of the car park layout, but I'd urge members to move approval of the application today so we can move forward with this development. Thank you for listening.
Members who would like any points of clarification at all? No, okay. So in that case, then we have a recommendation in front of us to grant planning permission subject to the legal agreements and conditions as printed in your agendas. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Smith and a seconder, Councillor Markham. Okay, thank you. So I'll open the floor now to any speakers on this matter. Councillor Wilson.
Okay, legal clarification, please. I was slightly late entering the room because I was stuck on the M69 in a 4-mile tailback, but most of the presentation is already contained within the agenda papers, which I've already read. Is the legal advice that I'm eligible to vote or that I would have to abstain in this case before I go on?
As Councillor Wilson said, we were only at presentation stage and the majority of the information is within the report that's before you. So there was nothing additional that you missed.
About whether I could vote.
So what legal have said?
Yes, it is. To support this application, I don't see anything out of kilter in terms of planning terms, otherwise officers would not have brought it forward at this stage. I think it's important to note that this will actually bring significant regeneration value to this area of town. Many moons ago, if I seem to recall correctly, this was the subject of a planning application for a number of houses, which the planning committee refused. I seem to vaguely recall sitting on that many years ago. And it's a disused piece of land right next to the main rail arterial network. Not dissimilar, actually, to Asda, in that it's right next to a lot of the railway infrastructure, and a number of jobs that it will provide for local residents as well. I don't know how many exactly, but I would imagine it would be a good couple of hundred there. My reservation that I have is about the length of time it will take for the highways works to be completed, because I do recognise it is a busy arterial route going in and out. So I wondered whether, I don't know whether we can put it as an advisory note or whether officers could communicate with their counterparts at county. But if we look at the Falklands Farm development, that is being done, the highway works there is being done by the applicant itself rather than paying the money over to Warwickshire County Council to do. And it seems to be going quite well and a lot faster in comparison to other applications that I have seen over the years. I think it might be beneficial if the applicant would be willing and County Council would be willing. It would reduce the amount of pressure on the county's resources, but it might actually enable this development to go a lot quicker and therefore reduce the disruption. If that is possible, Chair, and I don't know whether it is, but I'm raising it because I'm aware, certainly in certain areas of town, traffic is, with the amount of roadworks, it can be quite heavy at the moment, or feels that way. That may be a way to reduce some of the pressure on our highway network, and I think would benefit getting this up and running quicker so that we can get people into jobs, earning money, paying taxes, and helping the local economy. So that's all I would like to raise, Chair.
Actually, on that point that you just raised.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly, yes, Councillor, that's something that we can pick up with the applicant and the County Council as a point of discussion.
Okay, do I have any other speakers? Councillor Shepherd.
welcome the development and the jobs that it'll bring to the borough for local residents. I do have a little concern over this quiet delivery noise management system in terms of the HGVs going in 24/7 overnight, and it's how it's going to be monitored for the benefit of the residents. Because, you know, there's a lot of things in there about, you know, not using the trucks, having the alarms on them when they're backing up, making sure the HGVs come in a certain way, turn off the refrigeration, etc. So it's how we are going to be able to manage that on behalf of the residents, because I've got a little concern. It's there, but, you know, we're not all around, are we, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's how we will be assured that we could do it. And I think in terms of the residents, I think a contact name and number or an address they can write to might be useful, because this is quite a big development going on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Maria again will jump in on that one.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, Councillor, we have got an enforceable condition in this report and in this application. And yes, you're quite right. We are very reliant on the community reporting to us any breaches. And yes, certainly we can make residents aware of direct contact, whether that's through the enforcement officer or through environmental health and noise issues. But it is, in most cases, we are reliant on the residents contacting us on alleged breachage, and then, of course, we do have a duty to investigate.
Okay, do I have any other members? No? Okay, in that case, I shall go to the vote then. So, all those in favour? Okay, so that's unanimous. Thank you. So that is approved. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone who wishes to leave on this agenda item is free to do so. Darren, if you'd like to get ready for the second agenda item, please.
Thanks, Chair. This is a reserved matters application pursuant to an earlier outline permission on this site. This reserved matters application is for appearance, layout and scale for parcels A, B and C and J, and applies for 157 houses. The outline was approved for up to 575 houses overall and over the total of the site. The land is currently open and is used for arable farming. The land slopes gently up from its lowest points at the southeast and from the north, and the land undulates more gently over the rest of the site. To the north and the east of the site lies the existing built-up area of Nuneaton, specifically its residential suburbs of Maple Park, and to the east and approaching Whitestone further to the east, and Caldwell to the north. The key issues to assess in the consideration of this application are the principle of development, impact on visual amenity, housing mix and affordable dwellings, residential amenity, highways and parking provision, flood risk, open space, ecology and biodiversity, contamination, dust and noise. The principle of residential development has already been established by the granting of the outline permission 035037, which was then varied under 037774. The site is part of the Strategic Housing Allocation HSG3, and in fact it makes up the total of HSG3. And the site is largely in keeping with the concept plan for the area and is an acceptable use of the land. The design of the units is to be in keeping with the concept plan and will provide a mix of both 2 and 2.5 storey dwellings. Again, though, this application only relates to parcels A, B, C and J. The layout of these plots vary across the site, and it is good to see plots fronting roads and open spaces, and adapting to curves in the roads and green gaps. There is a large and interesting variety of house types and materials shown, and they have been arranged to remove blank elevations from public view and to maintain active frontages to open space and public areas. Gentle curves to the streets gives interest and a natural feel to the planned layout, as well as the incorporation of well-established trees and newer trees, which helps to give a boulevard feel to the wider, longer main streets. This proposal for parcels A, B, C and J provides for 157 dwellings across those 4 parcels. The entire allocation, as mentioned, is for 575 dwellings. So this application represents a little over a quarter of the total number of dwellings. These parcels are providing 25 affordable dwellings, which equates to roughly 16% of the total we're assessing. This is obviously below the 25% affordable housing threshold, but it is intended for this shortfall in affordable dwellings to be made up elsewhere across the other parcels and the remaining dwellings up to the total on the rest of the site. The outline permission and the legal agreement signed still require the entire site to provide 25% affordable dwellings. After these 157 dwellings are dealt with, the remaining 418 dwellings approved on the outline would need to average 28% across those sites in order to get the 25% across the entire site. This is considered only to be a modest increase across the remaining 3/4 of the site, and it is more than attainable without compromising adequate dispersal of the units. From the pre-app stage, the developer has worked with officers to provide for any changes requested relating to amenity. Changes were made to accommodate the amenity standards in the adopted SPD. The site also complies with the space standards set out in the SPD, and overall it is considered that the impact on residential amenity is acceptable. Warwickshire County Council have no objection to the proposal subject to conditions. A road safety audit was carried out which satisfied Warwickshire County Council highways. Each dwelling will have 1 or 2 car parking spaces and or a garage, which meets with car parking standards in the Transport Demand Matters SPD. Warwickshire County Council Flood Risk Management have no objection to the proposal with regard to drainage and surface water management. There are conditions on the outline which relate to flood risk. The Environment Agency were also consulted and have no objection to the scheme. The impact on flood risk, therefore, is considered to be acceptable. Landscaping is not being applied for in this application, but instead forms a separate reserve matter application. Comments and conditions at outline phase made the scheme more amenable to ecology and biodiversity, but the matters before us today are scale, appearance and layout. Overall, the impact on open space and ecology from these reserve matters is acceptable. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Darren. I have 2 speakers on this, so I'll go to the first of those, and that's Mr. Peter Smith, who I believe is speaking in objection. You have the 3 minutes, Mr. Smith, when you're ready. Sorry, distorted, so if you just turn it up and use one to your left or your right, we'll get some static feedback from it. Just use a different microphone. Yes, so we get some static feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. This project and the associated projects have turned the southern access of Nuneaton into a car park for up to 4 hours a day, adding hours to residents' already hectic schedules. What it does highlight is that the planning department does no planning, and any contractor can do anything, anywhere, no matter what the inconvenience to residents. Like every other department in this council, he just copy and paste other people's work, be it the government or contractors who do the work. What are the residents paying for? This site and the access to it is completely unsuitable for the plans to build on this area in Gypsy Lane, which is already an accident black spot. You have already destroyed the skyline of Hilltop with 2 huge sheds that completely ruin the area and add to the already unacceptable traffic in the area. The plan should be rejected and this planning department should be closed down along with the Highways and Planning Department of Warwickshire County Council until both can demonstrate that they are competent, as at the moment it is clear that they are not fit for purpose. And that goes for the one before as well. That Warwickshire County Council's Highways Department is shocking. The southern end of this town is a car park constantly. You've shut every access into the town, closed Gypsy Lane just for corporate interest. absolutely no regard for the residents at all, as usual. This council has got to the point where it's no longer fit for purpose, and you should all resign. Thank you.
Sadly, it's not within our remit to do any of what you've just said regarding sacking our planning department, who actually do a very good job, I'll have you know. They work very, very hard to provide a very good quality service for our residents. Residents can phone them up and they can get free advice on planning issues that they have. They work hard and diligently to make sure that what comes in front of us is the best possible outcomes for the borough. We may not always agree with those, and I understand that. I've been there myself, okay? But to say that they don't put the work in, I have to take issue. No, you don't have a right to come back on this because you have your 3 minutes and that is it. You come here and you sort of talk down to people rather than talking to the application, Mr. Smith. And I think you really need to go away and you need to think about what this committee does, okay, and what we can and can't consider, because you need to speak to the application. And tonight, although parts of what you said speak to the application, most of it doesn't. So I'm going to end it there. You've had your 3 minutes. We've all listened to it. And the bits that we can take, we will. I will ask quickly, does anybody have any points of clarification? By which I don't mean any political backwards and forwards. So does anyone have any points of clarification? No. In that case, I shall move to Mr. Hanlon, who is speaking in support of the application. Thank you.
Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening regarding this Reserve Matters application for the development of 157 new homes at Yew Tree Farm in Nuneaton. Some members may be familiar with the site, with this planning committee having granted outline planning permission for up to 575 homes in August 2019. The proposals before you follow the principles of the outline planning permission and accord with the concept plan that was approved as part of that permission. This application comprises the first phases of what will be a key housing development for the borough. It seeks approval of the layout, scale and appearance for the housing parcels that principally front Gypsy Lane. But this site is about so much more than the houses. Planning permission for the access points into the site and realignment of Gypsy Lane has already been granted. The Reserve Matters application before you this evening also includes details of the spine road that forms a loop within the site. This spine road will be of a sufficient width to allow buses to penetrate into the site, encouraging a modal shift with new residents and less reliance upon the private motor car. Alongside and linking to the spine road, a network of cycleways and pedestrian pathways will also encourage new and existing residents to travel sustainably within and beyond the site. A separate Reserve Matters application for the strategic areas of public open space and landscaping that are located alongside the Griff Brook and Wen Brook is currently with your officers for determination, and it is the intention that these areas of open space will be brought forward alongside the delivery of new housing. During the course of this application, Bellway Homes have worked with the council and its consultees throughout to ensure that all technical matters are addressed and that there are no objections from any statutory consultees. This application proposes the delivery of affordable homes for both social rent and shared ownership in accordance with the Section 106 agreement that was approved under the outline planning permission. The council's housing officer has also been consulted and has no objection to the mix of units and tenures being proposed. The scheme has been through a number of iterations to satisfy the technical, safety and sustainability requirements of the Highway Authority, and they have no objection to the proposals. These amendments have included the provision of a high-quality cycleway network through the site that has been designed in full accordance with the latest government guidance and provides a direct link between the existing cycleway network to the east of the site through to the Falklands Farm site to the west. The appearance of the houses is in keeping with the local vernacular, and there are a mix of house sizes and types, with landmark buildings located along the Spine Road and two-storey development fronting the canal, which is in accordance with the outline planning permission. The application has received a relatively small number of objections from the local community. However, all of these objections have related to the principle of development, which has already been established. It is therefore respectfully requested that the committee follow the advice of their officers and grant approval of these Reserve Matters. Thank you.
Points of clarification that anyone would like to ask? No. In that case, can I just start off? Because I do have a point. It's regarding how you're putting together the affordable housing. Is the intention later on to sort of spread it all out, or are you looking to cluster it all up? Can you sort of let me know? Because I know you've got below the 25% on this site, but you're going to add them later on.
Yeah, so it will be for the housing association who will eventually take the units on. So typically they like them in a cluster of, say, 8 to 10 units. So it's more manageable for them. They don't really like them, you know, sort of being in 2s and 4s spread around the site, but they do like them in manageable clusters of, say, 10 dwellings in a cluster. So that's how we would propose to provide them. As Darren, your officer's picked up, you know, the remaining phases will have to, I suppose, over-provide in order to make the balance work across the rest of the site. But that's in accordance with the Section 106 agreement, and that is what we intend to bring forward.
To get to the fourth and final parcel of land and then suddenly have all the affordable housing in that one cluster, or let's say 13 or 14% in parcel 1, 2 and 3, and then so like 35% in parcel 4.
The assurance for the rest of the site, the balance of the site, so, you know, some, you know, 420 dwellings is almost ready to be submitted and will be submitted as a whole. So you will have, you know, the control and the discretion to look at those proposals, and if there is any adjustments required, we will consider those.
Us then to recommend granting planning permission subject to the conditions as printed. So do I have a proposer? Okay, so Councillor Smith and Councillor Hammersley, okay, to second that. Okay, so I'll open the floor for debate. So any members? Councillor Smith, sorry, Councillor Wilson.
Of the officers. Looking at the plans, it's got a cycleway along the Gypsy Lane edge. The writing is very small to try and see on here, but it looks like it's saying that it will be dual purpose for both pedestrian and cycle. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a 3 metre wide cycleway, which is they tend to be dual purpose. They would be wide enough for a cycle and pedestrian use. Thanks, Chair.
Concerns about this application over many years, because I remember going to the original consultation event at the Wenbrook Community Centre some years ago, was about how pedestrians would walk along Gypsy Lane, because at that time they said they would try and direct them at Marston Lane and then up, but we all know human nature, and particularly little kids on the way up to Whitestone and Chetwynd, would be that they would follow the path of least resistance, if you'll pardon the pun. And so they would likely try and go along Gypsy Lane because that's the shortest route to try and get to those two particular schools. So I'm pleased to see that actually that is going to be dual use, which will actually alleviate that particular concern that I had, and I know some other residents when they looked at it did have. In principle, I wasn't in favour of the development when it went through the borough plan process and when it was approved in 2019 under the last administration, but that particular ship has sailed. We have to deal with what we have before us today. And is this application any better or any worse than other applications which have been passed within the borough? No, it isn't. So, on balance, there is not, in my view, a planning reason to object to this. The inspector has already passed the principle of development when he approved it in the borough plan, when he considered that, and so did the previous planning committee. So we have to deal with this, and unless there's any significant planning observations which haven't been brought to our attention, I can see no reason but to vote for it.
Yeah, sorry,
sorry. Just to pick up on something that Councillor Wilson said, in the fullness of time, once this is built out, there would be a strategic cycle link through the site and over the canal and through the Falklands Farm development over towards Bermuda. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I have two other speakers who've indicated so far, so I'll go to first as Councillor Shepherd.
And thank you for your points of clarification in regard to the affordable housing, and that is the element that I'm really not happy with, in the fact that, you know, this is a development, 157 houses, and when we determine these, we determine them on 25% affordable housing. I understand what the developer is saying. However, we're presuming that the other 400 and odd houses will get built. We don't know. We haven't had the application in. So I am looking at what I've got in front of me, and at this moment I can't support this application because actually it goes against our own affordable housing policy. Thank you, Chair.
Share your concerns, which is obviously why I asked a question. But I think, you know, because it's a multi-parcel plot of land, we have to perhaps take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And I'll be looking very carefully and closely, personally, to see what comes forward when the other parcels of land come forward, because I will be holding developers to their word on that. So if they are telling me 25%, you know, as an average, then I'll be expected to see 25% as an average. And you know, we've got the videotape here tonight to hopefully back that up. But I understand that there may be a need for some flexibility on this, but you know, I would again, I agree. I would like to see that overall 25% target hit across the entire site. And again, I hope members will sort of like take that into consideration when they are casting their votes. Councillor Hammersley, you indicated you wish to speak.
In favour of the development, but my concerns are regards the big issues with highways activity in and around this area, with Gypsy Lane then being thrown into the melee, and hopefully that you can tie up with Warwickshire County Council reference issues in the area which are of concern with traffic. It is a nightmare at the moment. So tying up with highways would be helpful to when you're opening and closing in this route. Thank you, Chair.
Sort of allay any concerns that the councillor might have on that. We are actually in the process of meeting with County Highways to discuss the most appropriate way that we can achieve the works that need to be done on Gypsy Lane with the minimum disruption to existing residents. And we're looking at whether we can combine road closures to enable us to, you know, put services in, divert services and do it all in one go, because there's other works not related to our site but other, you know, Falklands Farm as well, and we're sort of trying to coordinate that with County Highways to sort of keep the disruption to the absolute minimum that we can. Thank you.
Okay, question.
Bear in mind that we get it in here as Warwick councillors as well as local councillors daily. Thank you, Chair.
To talk on this matter. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone indicating, so in that case we'll go to the vote. So as I said, the recommendation is to grant planning permission. All those in favour? Against? And abstentions? Okay, so that is carried. Thank you. Okay, so as there is no other business, I shall now bring this meeting close, and thank you all very much for your attendance this evening. Thank you.